Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss the poem Keeping Quiet by Pablo Neruda. In this poem, the poet emphasizes on the importance of reflection and not reaction. Pablo Neruda is a Chilean poet, diplomat and senator. He wrote in Spanish, but you will find his works translated into various languages of the world. He won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1971. His first book was published when he was just 13 years old. Now to come to the poem begins with the line, "Now we will count to 12 and we will all keep still." The poet is asking everyone to stop moving, just like your teacher says in the class, children, stop moving, stop fidgeting. So this is what the poet says. And how long do you have to do that? Till we all count to 12. Now 12 is not a random number. He did not say 3 or 10 or anything. He said 12 because 12 means 12 months in a year. 12 numbers on a clock. That means 12 hours in the morning and 12 hours in the evening. So did he mean to say be quiet always? Don't move. That is all through the year, all through the day. Is that what he meant? Because this is what is important if you have to introspect, and this will lead to better understanding. Because you can see that even in class, when you're quiet, when you don't move, you understand better, but not a passive quietness. It's an active quietness. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. Language, which is considered to be a means of communication, the poet says, let's not speak in any language, neither verbal nor non-verbal. No language at all, because if you look at it, language is also a cause for misunderstanding. There is hostility, there is aggression, all these things because there is some miscommunication because of language. So he says, don't use any language. Stop for some time and don't move your arms so much. Now the word arms is important because it has two meanings. One is hands and one is weapons. This is a pun. Okay, pun is usually used in a very light sort of way, but it's not so here. Pun, it's a play on words that have similar sounds but different meanings. Like the word arms, it could mean hands and weapons. The meaning changes then. It could mean don't move your hands so much, or it could mean don't move your weapons so much. That is, don't use violence. So what the poet says is, he asks for complete silence, no physical activity and no violence at all. It would be an exotic moment, without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. The COVID pandemic actually gave us a glimpse of this. It's this moment when there is no hurry, when there is no traffic. What happens? It's an exotic moment. Exotic is the opposite of ordinary. Okay, it's an exotic moment, and this is a moment that we are not used to. So it's a sudden strangeness. At least COVID in the beginning, there was this good feeling when there was no traffic, there was no pollution, people were not in a hurry, there was family time. And what happens here is that there is a sense of togetherness because there is no hurry at all. Only when there is hurry and traffic, what happens? There is selfishness. You want to get ahead of people, you're competing with people, and without that, it's a new kind of happiness, a new feeling of togetherness and belongingness because you're not fighting with anyone. Note the use of alliteration in the word sudden strangeness, repetition of the consonant sound in the beginning. See, sir, sudden strangeness. Now to continue. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. So this is symbolic. Fishermen, it's symbolic of exploiters, oppressors. See, when we are moving ahead in life, knowingly or unknowingly, we oppress others, we exploit others for ourselves, our own personal gains. So fishermen here are exploiters, whales are the exploited or the oppressed. So they stop for a moment. The exploitation stops, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. If you've seen men who are working, who are gathering salt, what happens? They're doing it for their livelihood, but in the process, they actually hurt their hands. So this man gathering salt could be the entire humanity. Take a simple example. Like you students, you are studying so that you get a good job, and then you get a good salary, and you have a really good life. Now you struggle all through school, all through college, and then when you get a job, you struggle through your job for that promotion, for that hike, and in the end you realize that you're not really getting happiness. You have hurt yourself, you have hurt relationships, you have hurt your health. All these things you realize only when you give time for reflection. People are too engrossed in the rat race, and if such a moment comes when people stop to introspect, they would stop harming others. They would realize how much they have harmed themselves. You find alliteration again in the words his hands, the repetition of the her sound. Those who prepare for green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade, doing nothing. So there are people who are not just living their own lives, but they are preparing for green wars, wars with gases, wars with fires. This is unconventional war, not war with guns and tanks and bombs, but this is a different kind of war. Green war could be war against nature. You cut all the trees for your benefit, you dry up the entire river. What happens in the end? Who is the loser? The victor himself is the loser. Then there are wars, biological wars, wherein you use a virus, like recently we had this pandemic. You use a virus, or you may use a poisonous gas, you may use fire on your enemies. Again, what kind of victory will it be with no survivor? Now it is said that if there is a third world war, we have already seen 2 world wars. If there is a third world war, it's going to be a nuclear war, and it will be a victory with no survivors. So even these people, if they stop, they count till 12, what would happen? They would put on clean clothes. That is, they would change their approach to life. They would have a changed attitude, and they would walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. When you don't have enemies, they all become your brothers and friends. The other person's caste, class, religion, race, nationality, when that doesn't bother you, introspection will tell you that they are all the same. We are all the same. So you can always walk along with the other person as if they are your brothers. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. If we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt the sadness of never understanding ourselves, of threatening ourselves with death. So the poet makes it very clear that when he says no or no talking and no moving and all, he does not mean total inactivity. Meditation is active silence, and that is what he wants. Introspection, though there is silence and lack of movement, you are active from within. So he does not mean total inactivity. Total inactivity means death, and life is not death. Life is what it is about. Life is living, not dying. So he wants a good life wherein you reflect, you understand yourself, you understand others, and when there is this mutual understanding, the quality of life, the quality of the world improves. And he says that now we are all focused, we are single-mindedly moving behind something, competition, success, something. And what happens here is there is a sadness which is threatening to kill us. And if we give this moment of introspection, what will happen? There will be a break in this sadness. Perhaps the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now this is a very beautiful line. What does it say? We can learn something from the earth. What do we learn? That when everything seems to be dead, It later proves that it is alive. This silence that we are talking about, this introspection that we are moving about, this is actually life-giving. Like the winter in the west, we see everything is dead. There is no life, no leaves on the branches, no grass, no butterflies, no bees. Everything is dead. But what is happening at that time? There is life which is lying dormant, life which is ready to come out as in spring. So when everything seems to be dead, there sprouts life after that. After winter, spring comes. Now you can bring about another meaning to it. The earth, if you see, is one of the things that moves the most. It rotates round its axis. It revolves round the sun. 24 hours, it takes one rotation. 365 days, one revolution. But we don't realize that movement. That movement, that silent movement is actually life-giving. This is what we need to learn from the earth. The silent movement, the life-giving movement. And this is what happens when you reflect mutual understanding and a life-giving relationship. Now the poet concludes with these lines. Now I'll count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. What does he mean here? That he has initiated a process of reflection. He has given you the idea to think deeply, to meditate upon things around you. And now his work is over. He has initiated the process and we need to continue it. So the entire poem talks about introspection, meditation and reflection, thinking deeply rather than speaking nonsense, doing nonsense. We need to break from the single-minded focus of living life. Only then we will develop a sense of understanding and we will have a sense of belongingness and oneness. There will be no hostility, no aggression in the world. I hope you will read the poem once to yourself and have a better understanding of it. Thank you.